You can spend so much time with an architect, it's like brain numbing. You can spend so much time working on a drawing. You could easily spend 6 months with the architect. The architect will draw everything up and they'll make a plan that says the countertop sits at 34 and a half inches above the floor. The cabinet height is at 34 and a half. They have all these drawings in relation to walls or things next to it. The reality is when you're on the fucking job site, the shit doesn't go exactly where it says it goes, because the engineer that made the building to begin with doesn't have the floor level. And the right thing to do is to not follow the architectural drawing. The right thing to do is we got to put a shim here and cut down the corner of that cabinet over there out to this point, and then we have to level the floor from this point that way because we have to. It's the right thing to do. And that's reality,
If you don't have $1 million yet, you're living a much lesser life than what could be easily available to you with the right guidance. My head coach has freed up a few spots in his calendar to hold one-on-one strategy calls with the highest quality applicants. If you're doing well already and you're looking to accelerate your momentum and do even better, click the link in the description now and apply for your strategy session. More at the end of this video.
I've just spent 2.5 years on construction on a project, and it's still going to be a couple more months, and it's 33 months maybe, endless construction for 33 months. And, if I hired an architect it's a little hard to believe actually, but most of this is just in my head. I know exactly how I want things, and I show up and I don't even have a general contractor. I have a few groups of guys that I got a Polish and a Ukrainian guy that are very good craftsmen, and they work good together. I got a few other American guys that work good together. I had some different groups of various tribes and of various origin that did certain things well, but not other things well. And so it's a bunch of separate vendors, or a couple Finnish carpenters, or some guy and his kids that come help out here and there. Now, everything gets done nicely, and they've learned to communicate with each other. But there's not an architect, there's not an architectural drawing, there's not a general contractor, and I have to show up and say, this, ding, 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 ding. That means I have to be there, ideally 3 days a week. I don't have to spend a lot of time there now because we've been working together for a long time. And everybody that really pissed me off or did a shitty job got fired a long time ago. So I don't have to spend a lot of time there. But it helps if I show up 2 or 3 days a week, even for 20 minutes, and just to walk through. And they like to know that I know that they know that they know that I know that they're going to be fixing that shit. They're going to do everything over and do it exactly the fucking way I want it. If they didn't do it the first time, they're going to have to go redo it. And I'm not going to be happy about it. And they've seen enough other guys that leave the job site, the same day, that everything's good. You can spend so much time with an architect that it's like brain numbing. You can spend so much time working on a drawing and nothing's happening in real life. It's a drawing. You could spend 6 months easy. You could easily spend 6 months with the architect, and they'll draw the shit up. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with their profession. It's just not it's not for me. All right? So an architect will draw everything up, and they'll make a plan that says the countertop sits at 34 and a half inches above the floor. The cabinet height is at 34 and a half, and then the countertop is 3 centimeters granite, and we're going to cut the hole for the sink specifically exactly like this. And they have all these drawings in relation to, what they look like, so I'm saying this to other people more, but in relation to the other walls or things next to it. And the reality is when you're on the fucking job site, the shit doesn't go exactly where it says it goes, because some other craftsman before you, the engineer that made the building to begin with doesn't have the floor level. The floor is not perfectly level. And the right thing to do is to not follow the architectural drawing. The right thing to do is we got to put a shim here and a shim there and cut down the corner of that cabinet over there out to this point. And then we have to level the floor from this point that way because we have to. It's the right thing to do. And like that's reality, you know? So I think if you look at the architectural drawing as an outline or a suggestion, but you know, there has to be a somewhat talented tradesperson on the ground that looks at the terrain, that looks at the actual environment that you're operating in and says, well, if I did this, you know, the boss man is gonna be a lot less happy than if I put this shim here and that shim there and trim that down, and everything's gonna be pretty. But it's not gonna match the architectural drawing. These drawings it's amazing the level of detail. And now for new construction, maybe you can come close. But if you're remodeling something and you're bringing the architects, it's like you easily spend 6 months, 9 months to have some shit that doesn't match reality. There's a guy named Alfred Korzybski. He had an academic theory of sorts of, he said the map is not the territory. So if you could imagine like a map of a state or even a park, imagine a map of a national park. Well, the map doesn't tell you where the grizzly bear lives, but the grizzly bear is gonna eat your kids if you go over there. So the map is not the territory. The map doesn't show you, you know, well, that's where the bees are that are gonna sting my eyes. You know, oh, that's that nice little, you know, that little blue line on the map, that's a waterfall. That if you're not careful, you'll fall down and die. So you know, just think of it that way, that an architectural drawing is a guideline or a suggestion, but you still have to have, you know, some oversight and some relationship with the contractors that are gonna do the work, or it's gonna be fucked. And you can't just say, you can't be like, you know, on the other side of the world and say, just follow the architectural drawing. We spent months on it, it's perfect. No, it won't be. And then the real sin, this is for rich people that don't know construction. So then the real sin is then you get a designer involved too. So, you know, a designer tends to be a flamboyant man or woman. He's gonna waste outrageous amounts of money buying silly shit that you don't even want or like, telling you that he knows your taste better than you know your taste. This is the new trendy thing, this is how we do it now. So, you know, that's another part of, you know, some elements of construction that may not apply to you in this context, but that some people in here will do. You're gonna spend time on it, that's all. I have the same mental illness that I'd rather be there and take a look at things and make sure everything's going the way I want. Tell them, no, fix this, fix that, make it this way or that way. How many of you people have been on a job site with me at one time or another? Were you over, was that Robert, or I don't remember if it was Jason or Rob, both of you were there, but I was putting some amethyst, I had to crawl around on the floor I got to crawl around on the floor with 5 other men and make sure, you know, the amethyst is put in just the right way with the LED lights behind the amethyst, so there's a nice purple glow on the white marble floor. And, you know, there wasn't a lot of fun, but it looks nice later. But what else did you observe in that shenanigan or well-being there?
So it's basically what Rich Franklin said earlier. It's basically what the thought that you have is you could do it 95% and no one else would notice it, but you would know it and you'd have to kind of let yourself along here.
I fired every one of those people that talks like that to me on a job site. They're like, oh, you'll never notice. No, it's worse than that. They say it this way. They say, nobody will ever notice. Nobody will ever notice except you. And I'll tell them the first time and maybe a second time, I'm like, I don't give a fuck about anybody else's opinion of this project except mine. The only opinion in the world that matters on this project is what I think about the final outcome. So I'll tell them then, like, don't say that to me again, that, you know, oh, nobody will ever notice. Like, I want it perfect. I want everything perfect. I want the same deluxe outlet cover behind the washer and dryer that I'll never see. But I don't want a $1 outlet cover. I want the $6 outlet cover so it matches the other 200 outlet covers all around the place. I don't want in the laundry room, there's marble trim, marble baseboards behind the washer and dryer. They're not small pieces. Oh, we could put in scrap pieces with a seam back there, and like, no, it's one piece. Like, nobody's gonna see behind the washer and dryer, Derek. No, but I know, someday I'll be in Australia, walking through the Macquarie Park in Sydney, feeding a cockatoo. And I'll be thinking, God damn it, there's a seam behind my washer. Back on the other side of the world, there's a fucking seam back there. And I shouldn't have listened to that fucker and let him put a seam back there so I could save $20 or $100 on marble. And it's gonna interrupt my happiness with the fucking cockatoo. And I gotta live with that. So we just put it in right the first time, and I can be at peace with the cockatoo then, yeah? You have to spend it. You're going to pay one way or the other, and if you want it done perfectly, you have to pay with more time. But you do have to have some relationships with those people to make sure that they care enough to do a good job and things get done right. I never hired an architect for much, and I may have a friend who is an architect. I don't hate architects. For most people, you would need an architect because they don't know things in construction like I know in construction, and it's not worth their time to spend years trying to learn that shit for a normal project that they would build, So I get that, but I don't need an architect, or to the extent that one of my buddies has a graduate degree in architecture, and sometimes I'll give him, I'll scratch some dimensions down on paper of something, draw like a rough outline and put some numbers on it, and ask him, like, can you make that look pretty, in his, whatever the fuck it is, CAD program or whatever they use. So, he'll do that for me. But it's there's no plan, there's not an architectural plan somewhere for that project. I know what it looks like, and I just have to be there to make that happen over time,
You watch this video all the way through, and that tells me you're dedicated to learning more and earning far above average outcomes in your life. Congratulations for that. But now it's time to take action. If you could have earned those results by yourself, you would have done it already. My head coach has opened up a few spots on his high-demand calendar for an in-person, one-on-one strategy session to help you. On this call, we'll give you the pragmatic advice that you can implement tonight to get laser-focused on the right metrics and leave mediocrity far behind in your past. Click that link right now in the description below and apply for your call immediately. Do it now.